Hi, my name is Julie and I paint minis. Very simple, anyone can do it. So I'm going to show you today how you can do this cute paint. And I'm going to show you a real easy, quick way to do a beautiful portrait just like this with our realistic skies and the clouds that look so realistic. And you'll see the attention to the detail on the trunk of the tree, the light as it's hitting the hills. Gives you that roll top look and that sea of flowers that just kind of goes away from us. It's really easy to do, and these paintings are 1 to 2 inches and they're so pretty when they're framed. Or you can do little miniature canvases. These are canvas boards where I did a couple Southern Belle dresses. I'm going to do a whole series, and you can also pick up these little easels. These little miniature easels come in all different colors. You can have natural wood like I've chosen here, or black or white. And they're great gifts to put on people's desks or to use as gift cards on packages. Miniature pictures just bring so much joy. I'm going to start this painting using an old scruffy little tiny brush that I have. You can see how small it is. And it's torn up, and I saved these just for these techniques. Okay, so I start out using just a little bit of titanium white, and I'm mixing it with my cerulean blue, but I'm keeping this fairly dark. I don't want to dilute it too much. I want it to have that nice summer sky color. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is start applying our sky. So we'll just go back and forth with this brush, getting it on there, and I'm really just kind of doing, just do X's, get it covered. And don't worry about how far down or having a straight horizon line. You don't have to worry about that because we're going to have bushes in this picture. Okay, now we're going to grab some just pure titanium white with our dirty brush and come in here and just work in a little bit of white. And what we're doing is getting the haze of that background of clouds in the sky, and you just want to get some hazy ones in first before we go with a little more detail. So we'll just put that in. Let it kind of fade out. Then I'm going to add some more white to my blue mixture so I can get a lighter blue. And as I come down to the horizon, I'm just going to lighten that up a little with just a little lighter blue. Okay, and I'm still just scruffing it in. And that's the nice thing about having this brush that I don't care about. I can just go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and fade it up into this. Okay, and I'm going to bring some more, a lot brighter down here. So I just grabbed some more white on my brush and I didn't mix it at all. Just putting it directly on here and letting it mix in that way. Now I'm going to come back with my darker blue mixture and just go over these areas where they meet, bringing a little more of the dark down in, mixing in here where I've lightened it. Then we could just get a nice gradient where it's mixing together. Now I do want to be a little more detailed with my clouds, so I'm going to come in with a little more titanium white on my dirty brush and think small. You want to think real small, so I'm circling. I'm keeping my brush on the canvas. I'm not lifting up. See how little movement I'm doing here? And then I'm going to trail off. Okay, I just want to get a cloud formation. And then I probably want a couple more, so I'm going to probably bring one in over here and just let my brush kind of fade out. Now that I've faded out most of my paint, I'm going to come in to the bottom here. And the way I'm fading this out is I've got a fairly dry brush, but you can dry it even more. I can wipe it off on a paper towel. I'm not adding any water to clean it. Just wiping off on paper towel, and I'm going to get that faded out look that you get at the bottom of clouds. I just want those to taper off and fade off, but I wanted to have that detail. Now I want a little more, maybe one overlapping cloud. So I'm going to come in with my bright white again and make another cloud formation here. Maybe bring it up a little and let it trail off this way. Now I'm going to wipe my brush off another time on the paper towel, come back with my dry brush and just work this bottom part in. And I'm just scrubbing it into the canvas. Okay, and I think I want another small formation up here. So I'm going to have this one coming at me a little more. And then maybe trailing off that way. And I'll wipe my brush off again. come back with my dry brush and just give a little softer edge. I don't want to, this one I want to appear coming straight at me, so I'm not going to soften the side of that one too much. Okay, and now we want to get some stringers in there. Real easy to do. Same brush, I just put a little bit of white on there, and I'm going to come along and just do some lines. Just kind of put these in a little straighter. Those little stringy clouds that kind of hang off underneath, fade off into the horizon, get a little smaller, sometimes closer together. Just a few of those, and then I'm going to come in and soften some of those, especially as they get closer to the horizon. So I'm just softening these a little bit. I brush directly on them. I still want definition there, so I don't want to get rid of it. And we can move on to the bushes and the soil. So next we're going to do the soil, and I'm just going to clean this brush because I want to get all the white off of it. And I'm going to use this same brush and do my crisscross strokes again. Okay. And this doesn't have to be solid, okay? This is just soil going underneath. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. I don't care how solid it is, but you know, you can see that we do have really good pigment, and that is one thing I love about this paint. The pigment is wonderful. Okay. So I'm coming in here with my black paint, and I'm trying not to get it too very thick. I just want a light coat down here where the soil is going to be. I'm even going to leave some white spots, that's fine. All right, and now I'm going to take a little bit of raw umber, and I'm just going to outline my tree trunk. So I want to leave enough room for the branches. So remember, you're just going to use a small area for your tree trunk, and I'm going to bring it down and just go off to the edges like that. Just kind of flare it out and bring it down below the soil. And then I'm going to do the background for my bushes. Okay, so I'm going to just tap in here with the same brush, tap, and I'm going to vary the line. See how some are going to be taller than others? And I want to keep it darkest at the base of the bushes, because if I'm doing three-dimensional bushes, they're sticking out a little and the underneath is dark. So we want to give that illusion of three-dimension. We're going to do it this way and roll this way. Okay, so you see I'm just kind of haphazardly, randomly changing the height of the bushes. I don't want any kind of pattern there. And then I'm going to continue them on this side. And that's the blueprint for our bushes. Just want to go ahead and put the branches in so we know where we're going to put our leaves. So this is really just designed to show us. So I'm going to use this brush. This is an angular brush. It's a very inexpensive brush. It's actually 0.8 of an inch. And I'm going to take that same raw umber and come up here, and I'm going to branch out probably one this way and one coming this way and probably one forking out in the middle here. Okay, so this is going to be the start of my big tree. And what I want you to think of is a series of Ys. So I'm going to do Ys this way, this way, this way, and this way. Now what we want to do is get skinny very quickly. So I'm going to switch brushes again and go down to a very tiny. And keep in mind that this does not hold a lot of paint on the bristles. You see how thin that is. Okay, so I'm going to add a little raw umber. And at this point, now with acrylics, you don't want to add a lot of water. They're not watercolors. I'm going to add the slightest bit into my paint just to make it flow a little easier. Because I'm not looking for the way this looks here. All we're doing is getting a blueprint for the shape of our tree. So I'm going to continue those Ys. See how each time I'm branching off another Y. Okay, and I'm trying to do this to the side. You'll have a little more control because you can put your hand straight on, but I want you to be able to see. So keep going, keep going. And I'm just making the shape that I want my tree. And I kind of want to do a lopsided shape this time. I did that one, the example, a little more round. So I think what I'm going to do is bring my tree up kind of high on this side and not quite so high over here. I'm going to do a little different shape. Okay, so I am lazy. I do like to mix with my brush. So as you can see here, I've got my ultramarine blue and my cad yellow medium. And for this first layer of green, I want a pretty dark green, so I'm going to have a lot more blue than I have yellow. Okay, and if this turns out to be too light, I'll just add more blue. But what we want is a forest type green. Okay, and you can see we got a good green here, but I think it's a little too light. So we're going to grab a little more blue and darken it up a little bit, just a little. Okay, so we have a pretty good dark green here, and we're going to start with that. So the first thing we're going to do is put in our rolling hills. Okay, so you see what I'm doing here? I'm mashing it off so the brush isn't loaded because I just mixed. I just want it on the edge. Okay, so I'm going to come in with my first hill, and I'm just going to run this edge starting above the bushes and coming in. And what we want to do is come to a point. And if you can see over here, this is the shape we're looking for. It's a long triangle. It starts up high and it comes down on an angle. Let's see if you can see that better. And then comes straight across the bottom. And you want to end in this point that kind of disappears. So that's the shape we're looking for. Okay, so we're going to take the dark green. And you can't see the dark at first. It's a little bit hard to see, but that's okay. Just so you can see a reflection of where it is. You get the idea of where your first hill is going to be. And this green will show up more when we put the highlights on. Okay, so we're going to come in and just make that shape that I just showed you. Then we're going to come from the other side and start at the bushes, and we're going to go right across the base of our tree, and see that just kind of seats that tree in, and bring this hill down to here and straight across at the bottom here. Okay, so there's our second rolling hill, and we're going to do a third one. I'm going to come from over here and bring it right across and down. Okay, and then we'll bring the bottom over. So we'll just bring this in. So we have our 3 rolling hills. Okay, now while we have this color, before we lighten the color, we're going to switch to our messed up brush. This one, you can see the end of it. And we're going to do our bushes. So we're going to dip in that green color that we made. And we're going to go back over what we've done here. We're not going to kill all of the dark. We're just going to come over it quickly, tapping in this dark green. All right, and then come over here and do the same thing. Okay, and then we're going to put the blueprint for our branches. Now when you think of the branches, I want you to think of little humpbacks or like turtlebacks. So it'll be kind of like this. Kind of like this shape of a turtle's back. And you're going to do those periodically where you would have clumps of branches. So the tree looks realistic. Now you're not going to see all of that with the dark green. It's going to run together, but you need to keep those in mind. I'm going to have a little one here, a little one out here. And you see how the tree trunks underneath are giving us our blueprint for the shape of our tree. And there might be another one dropping down here and one coming in here. So we're kind of making the shape of our tree now and defining the way it's going to look. And you can still let some of the branches show through. Let's see how we're going to have this tree just a little lopsided, just a little different shape. Give it a little different character. We're just going to play with that today because that's so fun to do. Trees are so different everywhere you go. I started taking pictures of them. All the different types of trees and different states have different ones, and it's just so interesting. Okay, so we're having this tree be just a little bit lopsided. Now some branches coming straight at us here. So we're gonna do a different shaped tree. And that's gonna come out really neat when we get done. Now we've got to do our stems for our flowers. So we're gonna go back to the angular brush that I still have loaded with the green. And I'm gonna flick up from the bottom. So you're gonna come up and flick. And what we're gonna do is just in even amounts. I know I usually don't like you to do patterns, but we're gonna do a pattern here. We're gonna come even amounts. We want a little bit of dark green sparsed in between our flower stems that you can see from the side. Okay. And put them apart. Now we can move on to mixing another green. So we are going to mix a lighter green. So to the green we already have, we're gonna grab some yellow, cad yellow medium, and mix it in and just get ourselves a little pile of lighter green. And it needs to be a whole shade lighter. It needs to be noticeably lighter. So when I look between the two, I don't see as much as I want to see. So I'm gonna lighten it up even a little more. Okay. There we go. Okay, that's a pretty good little pile. And we're gonna go ahead and tap through to our bushes while we have this tree, or this color dirty. So here we go. And what we're gonna do is keep a little dark in between them. So you see what I'm doing here? I'm tapping it in, but I'm leaving a little bit of dark space in between them. You don't have to worry about much detail right now. Just make sure you leave that dark space in between and you get your green down underneath. Okay, so there's separation between the bushes. All right, and that's all we're looking for there. Now I'm gonna switch back to my angular brush because we want to give our tree a little more time to dry. Going back to this brush, I'm gonna grab some of that lighter green and we're gonna outline our triangles, highlight them a little bit. So I'm gonna come here at the very top of the triangle and go along the very edge, the length of that first triangle that we put in of land, okay? And then I'm just gonna kind of fade it into the dark green here with the edge of the brush. Okay, now I'm gonna load again and come along this hill and bring it along that rolling hill and then just kind of fade this in to the dark green. Okay, and then we're gonna come back and do this rolling hill. Just start right here. And just stay at the top. The whole point is that you want to give you want to take away that two-dimensional look and give it a three-dimensional look. And I'm going to load just a little bit more here. And come to the edge. Okay, and then fade it in with my sort of dried out brush. And fade it into there and it just kind of rolls off into it. Then we can go back to our brush for the tree. And we're going to dab a little over this. So we're going to go over where we had the tufts before. Okay, just putting them in. Remember to keep those differences between them, okay? Don't let yourself start to just clump it all together. You want to keep those clusters, those little tree humps of leaves. You want to keep them separated. Okay. Now keep in mind, eventually we're going to be considerate of where the light source is coming from. Right now we're doing everything with these colors. So we're going to go to a lighter green soon and we're going to pay attention to where the light source is coming from. Okay, now we're going to switch back to our angular brush and take some more of that medium green. And we're going to flick up some grass. And you can overlap the dark green, and you can go in between them, okay? So I'm flicking the grass up, all in between there, and we're gonna leave it at that. Okay, now we're gonna mix an even lighter green. So for the lighter green, we're going to take a little more of our yellow and mix it in with our green. So we're going to get a pretty light green now. Okay, make sure you mix it in well. Okay, so you can see that's considerably lighter. And what we're going to do now is show the sunlight. So the first thing we're going to do is switch back to our angular brush. I have a couple of these, so I have another one here. And I'm going to load my brush and go right on top of this triangle, but this time I'm going to stay really close to the top. I'm not going to go as far down as I did with the medium green color. So now I'm getting a variation of 3 different shades of green. Okay, my light source is coming from this direction. Okay, so it's hitting the top of this hill. I'm going to blend it out a little here. Okay, and now I'm going to have it's hitting the top of this hill and coming to a point here. Okay, and then I'm going to grab some more and go on top of this hill. See how you can really start to see these hills now? You can see the difference between them. So I'm just bringing it along here, right along this top edge, and that's what gives it that rolled over 3-dimensional look. We don't want the whole thing to be solid with that color. It's just the sun hitting the top of those hills there. And then I'm going to grab some yellow with my dirty brush, and I'm going to go right on top of that and brighten it up even a little more. Okay, so I'm just taking a little bit of yellow. I don't want that much. We want to blend it in. Okay, and those are just patches where the sun is hitting it. It's just hitting at the very top. Same thing over here. Just brightening it up in a couple places. You don't want to go too crazy with this. It starts to look really good. And you want to add a lot. Oh, that looks good. Yeah, that's the sun hitting the hill in various places. Okay, and I'm going to have it a little more over here on this one. This is a little closer to us, so we can see a little more of the sun hitting it. Okay, and I'm making sure to keep it right on the edge of my brush, and I'm not clumping it. When I load my brush, I flatten the paint onto it. I just have to load more often, but the effect is so much better. Okay, so it just brightens those up. Now, I'm going to take my light green with my scaggly brush and go in here. And I'm going to highlight these bushes, but what I'm going to do now is not as much. Okay, so I'm just touching a little bit at the tops more than the bottom, so I get those highlights on the bushes. Okay, just touching. Oops, got a lot there. All right, keeping them individual, mostly at the top. Some I'm going to come a little lower to make them look different. Maybe I'll bring this one down a little more. Okay, a little less highlight over here under the tree because it's a little more shaded. All right, and now I'm going to grab that light color and come in and do the tree. Now, I'm going to do more of the lighter color on this side because I've got the sun coming from this direction. So I'm going to do the outside of this clump. And the outside of this clump's getting a lot. Okay, and then right here, this one's getting a lot of sun, and this one on that side. Okay, bring these in here. I'm doing the sides mostly. Okay. All right, now I'm going to let my brush just kind of run out of paint over here because this side's not getting as much sun as the part that's sticking out towards me and the side. And we're going to highlight that even more with a brighter color in a little bit. Now I'm going to take that lighter color and we're going to go ahead and flick some grass up, some more stems. Okay, so I'm going to do a little lighter color, but now I'm going to skip a lot more. I'm going to bring this lighter color in just here and there across some of these. Lighten up some areas where it's dark, not a lot. Okay, And now I'm gonna go ahead and grab some yellow with my dirty brush, and I'm gonna flick it in occasionally here and there, not a lot. And keep the brush dirty so you're mixing green with the yellow, but you're getting some brighter highlights in our flower stems here. Like I said, you gotta keep reloading, especially when you're doing just thin strips. But you see how that adds to our stems down there. Okay, now for highlights on the tree, we're going to put a little bit of white. We're going to mix just a touch of titanium white with yellow. Okay, I got too much water on that. Definitely don't want a lot of water. So I'm going to take some yellow over here, right, and mix a little bit of titanium white with it. And I want to get a very pale yellow. Okay. Alright, now to make sure this is what I want, I'm going to tap it until I start getting just little dots like that. That's what you want. Okay, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to highlight the tops of my bushes. Just a little, see? One tap. One tap. And that's giving me highlights that I need on these bushes. Just tapping, getting those little dots. And if I start losing those little dots, it's time for me to reload. Tap again on my plate first. And I'm not going to do these under here because they're in the shade. These are getting more sun. Now I'm going to come up here and do the tree. Okay? Just doing a little different places. I'm going to highlight these branches so that we start to get that three-dimensional look. You need brighter. Now these right down the middle are coming at me more, so I'm going to do a little more highlight on those. Okay, a little more over there. This one needs a little brighter. Remember, acrylic always dries darker than it looks when you first put it on, so you will have to come back and add some more highlights. So we're going to let this dry, and we might even get a little brighter on that. Now while all of that's drying, we're going to work on this tree trunk. And you can do some really nice. Okay, so just a touch of burnt sienna. We're going to take our angular brush, take my angular brush and get a little bit of burnt sienna on it. And I'm going to come in here and just do some lines, okay? And I'm not afraid to do them straight. I'm going to do it right down this tree trunk. Okay, so I'm putting my medium color in here. And I'm going to have this line come off, trail off down here. I'm going to do some feet with the tree. I take the titanium white and just do the outer edge of the tree because this out here is getting sunlight. Okay, and then this is sticking out here, I imagine, a little. Right in here, and I'm going to have this tree kind of split here. Have a foot come down here and here. We're going to come back with dark too, so you're just going to kind of put some of these highlights in there, and then we're going to come back with black. Okay, and then right next to those highlights, I'm going to take a little bit of black, same brush. Okay, and I'm going to put it right up next to, so I'm not killing all my medium. I'm just putting a little bit of black right in there next to the highlights. And that gives it a deeper, it gets set in more. Okay, down here, I want this in here. Alright. And this just gives us tremendous detail on the branch, and it just, you want that on your tree trunk. You want a little more detail in there. Okay, and then also, you know, I want it to look like it's forking here, so I'm just going to put a little bit of dark right in there, give it, and bring it to a point, make it look a little more like it's forking there. Okay, so we have that nice detail on our trunk. Now we're ready for the flowers, and then we're going to be done. Okay, and what we're going to do on the flowers is very tiny work, so we're going to be using our very tiny brush again. The first thing we're going to do is some very tiny points in the distance. Okay, I want some very tiny, I'm just touching the edge of the brush And I want to do very little, and I'm doing them random, just sparsing them out. They're all going along the bottom of this hill here. And I'm going to leave room. I'm going to also use orange and yellow. Now in the distance you don't see yellow as much. Yellow fades out from perspective, so I'm not going to have yellow way out here. And you see I'm just going along the edge, and I'm going to do some back here between these two hills. And that's a little different than we did in the other picture, but you can change it. You don't have to have them back here. I kind of like adding a little more color. And I think that's about it. Okay. So you can see how tiny those are. Okay, and then we're going to take a little bit of yellow, cad yellow light, cad yellow red, and we're going to mix a bright orange. So it's noticeably different than the red, but it's close in color. Okay, and we're just going to tap in a little bit of orange in between. Okay, so a few little orange dots coming in between this row of flowers back here. Okay. All right, now as we move closer, the flowers are going to get bigger. Okay, so I'm going to do medium-sized dots now in relation to what we already have here. Okay, so these dots are a little bit bigger. You can see that we're just making them just a little bit bigger. Okay, so they have the appearance of being closer, right? And then you're just going to see, I'll just put a few little orange ones sparse back here, and that's all we're going to see out there. Now up here we need to add some red medium. Okay, so our medium dots in red, so I'm going back into my cad red and putting it in. And one more. Okay, so we're going to finish almost done with the red. Just need to put a few more big red ones in. Remember, we just push the point down and lay it sideways. And you have to dip back in often because these tiny brushes don't hold a lot of paint on their hairs. There's just not a lot of hairs there. Okay, now we're going to come in with the orange. So go back to the pile of orange that you made. And again, you're going to push the tip down and then lay it sideways. So you get a big flower. And turn them different directions. Okay, don't have them all pushing the same way. And push out a different direction. Okay, and put another orange one up here. Remember, these are big ones. You can do these right over top of the other flowers. These are the ones that are in front. Okay, so I just want to get a few. Now I'm going to come in with what little spaces left and just put a few yellow. Remember, your cad yellow medium is kind of a translucent paint, more so than the others. So I see a space here. I'd like one and one here. I'm going to put one back here and here. Okay, let's sparse these out just a little bit more. And they can overlap some of the others. Let the other flowers peek out from behind them. Oh, I got some big yellow ones there. Okay, and I think what I'm going to do is come back in with a little red. A couple red ones on top of the yellow. Okay, just kind of crossing over them. Maybe a little here. And this one I feel like I got a little too big, so let me put a little more on top of there. Okay, so you can see how the flowers kind of gradually fade out as they go away from you, and that gives us that sloping look as if we're looking along the ground here with these flowers. And your painting is done. And you can see when you pull it away that the edges are nice. It's just a beautiful painting that you can frame, or you can use as a card, or as a gift tag to someone. And you can do these on wood, you can do them on rocks, You can do them as Christmas ornaments. I've done that before. And they're just so detailed and cute.